Blocker Outdoors presents Whitetail Frenzy.
Well, last week there was a little bit of everything. The Silver Fox, Jeff Perry, took his Elite to Ohio and knocked down a big buck. And then Aaron and I took our kids to our family hunting camp and let them use the Cam-X A4s. And Aaron's daughter Bree and my 4-year-old son Tucker both knocked down their first deer.
This week we're going to join Kenny as he takes us on an adventure over the last 4 years as he chases a mountain buck he called Double B.
This isn't your average hunting show, and hunting isn't our full-time occupation. We have families, full-time jobs, and face the same struggles as many of you. Months of scouting and preparation for a single short moment in time. That moment when you can't control your breathing and your heart is pounding out of your chest.
Whitetail Frenzy is brought to you by Elite Archery, the world's most shootable bow. Warner Law Offices. Custard Stand, the world's finest ready-to-eat hot dog chili. Cirrus Wind Indicator. Whitetail Trail Mix. Go to whitetailtrailmix.com to find your closest dealer. Whitetail Frenzy is also brought to you by the following partners.
So this hunt is one that will always go down in the books for me. I mean, to find a big mature mountain buck in the state of West Virginia is always a challenge. But to have a 4-year history with a 6-year-old deer and have it all documented on film is another thing. I mean, there were multiple highs and lows throughout those 4 years, and this deer gave me the runaround, and the outcome, this is just a hunt that I will never forget. But let's go all the way back to the beginning, 4 long years ago. Beautiful day, but not that great conditions for whitetail hunting. These deer here in West Virginia, they've been through 4 straight weeks of firearm season. No, it's New Year's Eve. It's December 31st, the last day of the bow season in West Virginia. I had another bow tag. I could kill another buck. I was getting pictures of this buck, really nice 8-point, 3 years old, but he had little short brows, and I feel like a buck at 3, if he's got little short brow tines, he's always going to have short brow tines. So I knew this deer was probably a good management deer to take out, and I told myself, if he shows up on this day, the last day of bow season, I'm letting the arrow fly. I told myself I was going to shoot this deer, and I looked up, and here he came around the hillside. This deer was about 25-30 yards. I came to full draw, and then as I'm at full draw, getting ready to settle the pin, I talked myself out of it. Just because it's the last day of season, I knew this deer was going to make it, and I was hoping he would blow up into something special the next year.
Whitetail Frenzy is brought to you by Scent Assassin. Forget the wind. Hunt anywhere, anytime. Rambo Bikes and X-Stand Tree Stands. Hatfield McCoy Trails, offering some of the best off-road trail systems on Earth. Covert Scouting Cameras. Lethal Addiction Mineral and Attractant. Whitetail Frenzy is also brought to you by the following partners.
So with every camera check, I got more and more disappointed. This deer was nowhere to be found, but lo and behold, about a mile away, the buck that I later end up naming Double Beam shows up on my camera as a 4-year-old. So hey, in 2016, this 4-year-old West Virginia 8-point, he schooled me. And my brother tell you, it won't be the first time a buck has schooled me, but he did. I never even got one sighting of this deer, nothing but a few pictures on the covert cameras. But we're headed into 2017. This buck is 5 years old. I'm hoping he's made it through the winter. I'm going to get out there during the summer months. I'm going to put a lot of effort into focusing on this deer, getting the cameras out, creating the food sources, setting up multiple stands for different wind locations. I'm going to make it happen. This is the year. This buck that he's like my kryptonite. I'm going to make it happen this year. This 5-year-old big boy's going down. So the buck that I call Double Beam, you can now see why he got that name. As a 5-year-old, out of nowhere, this buck developed a third main beam. He had no non-typical points before. I mean, this is a big body, mature mountain buck, and he is showing up on camera consistently. I mean, this guy is posing like crazy. So the early season has came and gone. The big buck that was showing up a lot during daylight hours, he has went nocturnal. So I kind of lay off a little bit. I don't pressure the deer. I'm waiting for those cool mornings in late October when those big boys start to get on their feet and cruise to get back out there.
We're set up in the stand. It's early November and it's not the best conditions. It's in the lower 70s right now. It's as warm as can be. We got swirling winds. Not the greatest day when it comes to weather conditions, but it is early November. The bucks are starting to get on their feet. Got a couple really good bucks in this area, and they've been showing up here and there during daylight hours. They've just been showing up when I'm not in the stand. So hopefully we get lucky and cross paths with them here real soon. Hopefully today's today. We can put this elite bow to work. Well, I think we're going to get ready to get out of here. We're about out of camera light. The wind just killed us today. The warm weather was bad enough, but the wind was just whipping. The tree was swaying. Deer weren't moving very good. We did see 2 decent bucks, a couple does though. More than I thought we would have seen with the wind. We're going to back up, get out of here. I'll be back here first thing in the morning. Got dressed. We're headed out to the stand. We put everything in sealed bags. And then we park, we try to get in the woods, get away from the vehicle, anything with human scent, put our gloves on, get all of our clothes out, get dressed. That way we don't get any human odor on the outer layer of our clothes. We spray down, try to be as scent free as possible, and then take our time walking into the stand so we don't break a sweat.
Throughout the last couple years, I have spent countless hours in the stand hunting this buck that I now call Double Beam. And Dave Cato and I, we have been in the stand together and spent so many hours in the woods together scouting this deer, hanging stands. And you know, I'm sitting there, the rut is in full swing. We're in November. Dave hits my shoulder and he said, "Kenny, I just saw a big buck down the point."
You think it was a big one? Yeah. Oh yeah, that's what I like to hear, Dave. That's what every hunter wants to hear. He was wild. When they see it, when they hear the cameraman say, "Here's a buck. It's a big one." And that one does his thing.
Just when we had thought the big buck Dave saw left the area, out of nowhere he appeared, but it wasn't just any big buck. It was Double Beam headed right toward us. So as this deer finally goes out in front of the stand, gives me a slight quartering away chip shot at 20 yards, I'm thinking game over. So what y'all think of that shot? It was terrible. I mean, I went from the highest point as a hunter to the lowest point like that. You know, when that deer stepped out, I had a perfect shot, the shot that every hunter hopes for. And as I was at full draw and I went to look through the peep to set on my pin and my peep was turned, I even turned my head because I couldn't see through the peep very well. Tried to put my head back on my anchor point, keeping the pin in the same position. And, you know, evidently the pin wasn't where I thought it was. You know, this is an animal. You know, we never want to wound an animal. And look, I'm not a professional hunter. I have a day job. I have a family. This is not my full-time job. I make mistakes, and God, my wife would tell you I make a lot of them, but I made a big one on this day. And you should never take a shot at an animal unless you're 100% sure of your aiming point and you're comfortable. And I wasn't. I mean, my heart was racing a million miles an hour, and I made a mistake. So to my surprise, about 5 days later, the buck that I called Double Beam showed up on my covert cell camera chasing a doe.
Whitetail Frenzy is brought to you by the Omega Sight, the only all-in-one sight, rangefinder, and video camera. Extreme Cleaner. Camex Crossbows, built like no other. Blocker Outdoors. Whitetail Frenzy is also brought to you by the following partners.
So you probably wouldn't believe how much whitetail trail mix I put out that summer. Doing everything I can to keep this deer in my area. And as we're getting closer to hunting season, early September rolls around and the buck that I call Double Beam vanished. As we got into early October, still no pictures of Double Beam. At that point, I just thought something happened. Something happened. Did he get poached? Did coyotes get him? What the heck happened? Then, the third week of October, 2018, the buck that I called Double Beam showed up a mile from where I'd shot him the year before in the same area that I originally drew back on him when he was 3.5 years old. So now I am on cloud nine. So much time, so much energy, so much effort into this one deer. I know he's still alive. I know he's healthy. I know he's in the area. I have a covert cell camera in the area. I'm not getting consistent pictures, but I'm getting enough pictures to know that he's there. He's in the area. So you can better believe every chance that I get, I'm gonna be in the stand, and hopefully sooner or later, he comes by and gives me another opportunity.
Walking by the ocean, feeling all emotion. When she came right up next to me, I got caught up in the moment. Felt like we were frozen, like it was literally meant to be. Time stood still right there. Time stood still right there.
We're about 400 or 500 yards from the stand, so we got a long walk up this ridge. We're just going to keep stopping about every 80 yards or so, freshening up this drag line all the way to the stand.
I would never have expected feeling so connected. It must have been our destiny, and now I know I'll never let this ever end in someone
We got the Elite bow locked and loaded. It's not as cool as we would like this time of year, but it's not warm either, and we have a cold front moving in tonight. That's bringing a lot of rain with it. It's supposed to rain tonight and all day tomorrow. Second week in November, at the beginning of a front. I mean, really, it's good ingredients for big buck movement.
This segment of Whitetail Frenzy is brought to you by Blocker Outdoors.
Several hours in the stand hunting this deer, but I've yet to see him in 2018, yet to lay eyes on him. But now there's a front coming in. The temperature is dropping. It's November. We're supposed to have some snow flurries. I mean, everything's in my favor at this point except one thing. Dave Cadle, that had been running the camera for me, had obligations with his kids that weekend and he couldn't come out. I'm not taking any chances. Solo filming is hard, but it is very difficult during the rut. The bucks are chasing, they're running, they're moving. Solo filming without a cameraman is hard. So I'm going to leave the Elite bow at home. I'm getting out the Camex A4 crossbow and I'm headed to the stand, and just hopefully today is the day.
The wind is absolutely brutal this morning. 20 miles per hour probably. It's changing directions. But we had a cold front come in yesterday evening. Brought a little snow last night. The ridge top, there's a dusting on the ground. And it's the second week of November. The temperature has dropped tremendously these next couple days. Hopefully the wind will die down later, but even if not, this time of year, the cold weather, the bucks ought to be on their feet. I'm pretty excited.
Oh, thank you, Lord. It looked like it smoked him. Oh my God, I've been hunting that deer for 3 years, since he was 4 years old. And I had an encounter with that deer last year and I messed up, and I think I just sealed the deal. Oh my goodness, thank you, Lord. Yes, that is so awesome, I'm telling y'all.
Well, 4 years later, and about 4 hours after I shot him today, we finally got our hands on this brute of a West Virginia whitetail buck. I got pictures of this deer for the first time when he was 3 years old, 4 years ago. At 4, I hunted him. At 5, I hunted him. At 5 years old, he had a big double main beam. He was a bigger rack at 5, and I made a horrible shot on him. And he got away, but he survived it. I found him again this year. Had pictures of him during the summer. He disappeared. Found him again a mile, maybe 2 miles away. We're here in the middle of November. And man, what a brute. I know I didn't get this deer with my Elite. I'm a huge bow hunter. I love bow hunting, but hurt my shoulder recently, and thankfully West Virginia, it's legal to crossbow hunt. So I brought out the Camex, first time I've ever crossbow hunted for a deer in my life.
Well, AD, I've killed a lot of deer in my life, a lot of big bucks, and that one by far does not score the most, but that one will always probably be at the top of the list. I mean, I lost a lot of sleep over that deer.
I lost a lot of sleep over it. There was numerous times he was calling me. I mean, it's like in the middle of the night. I said, man, I got to work the next morning. And we would talk, we strategize everything. And when you talk about hunting a specific deer and you target a mature deer and you set your season to that deer like you did 2 to 3 years, it's just a whole different level of hunting.
Yeah, and a lot of the deer that we've taken, we get pictures of them as a 3-year-old, maybe a 4-year-old. We hunt them the next year, we target them, we make it happen. But to have the video footage of that deer and the trail cameras of that deer, and to be full drawn on him at 3, to shoot him at 5, and finally close the deal when he was 6 years old. I mean, it was. Finally, when I recovered that deer, it was emotional. I'll tell you, it was a happy moment for me, something I'll never forget.
I'm sure you should be proud. That's an accomplishment. I mean, targeting one deer and having that much history with that deer over and over, and playing your cards right as they're dealt to you, that's pretty good.
Yeah, my first ever deer with a crossbow. Put the Camex to work. Man, what a special moment. What a great episode. We hope you all enjoyed that. This show is not, we kill a lot of big bucks in this show, but we don't focus on big bucks. But that storyline was probably one of the most memorable that we've ever had.
Right.
Well, thank you all for watching another episode of Whitetail Frenzy. Stay with us. We got a few more episodes left to go in season 6. So tune in, same time, same place, next week, right here on another episode of Whitetail Frenzy.